Welcome to the Mosaic Podcast. We're so happy to have you here. The Mosaic Society is all about celebrating the intersections of our identity, whether it's through culture, spirituality, or civics. We're three friends exploring these paths together. I'm T. Marie, your cultural mosaic.
I'm Roseberry, the voice of the spiritual mosaic.
And I'm Shreya, bringing in the civic mosaic. Our mission is to strengthen friendships through exploring each other's passions and to inspire confidence for you to show up as your true self in your communities.
We'll be sharing new insights, ideas, and conversations each week with fresh posts every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And of course, this podcast on Sundays. So let's dive in and explore the many intersections of identity together.
So today we're talking about Marvel versus DC.
Woo!
I feel like this is a topic that comes up a good amount for people. Even if you're not that big into superheroes, you've seen a Marvel movie, you've seen a DC movie at least. Um, so yeah, it can be a heated one as well, but I feel like we're fine.
I don't think I'm into it enough to to get into a
Yeah,
fight with anyone.
no, that's fair. I think in high school, specifically like towards the end of high school, I probably would have had a stronger opinion of the two, but still not to the point of being like upset and angry and real passionate like some people. But I was definitely more into it then than now.
Okay. Fair warning, I thought Spider-Man was DC for the longest time.
Their ownership was weird anyway. They're like
What?
Sony.
Sony owned
They
them
were
and
just,
then
it was Sony and Switch, so I've had someone else say that. It honestly tracks.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And he's had a
So,
crossover with DC characters before, so
hmm So it makes sense.
yeah.
But let's just start there then. Let's start with what superheroes we did grow up watching. So we have a foundation.
Of girls. Sorry, I couldn't wait until you finished.
Are they Marvel
The
or DC?
No,
neither. The
not at
neither.
all.
We're talking about
Okay.
superheroes, Powerpuff Girls. That was my initiation to
hmm
it. I had pillows with the so there's this thing called Global Village in Dubai. So it's like this place where they have different outlets all together from all over the world. And we would go there, and my mother got me a bedspread and pillow covers with Powerpuff Girls on it. That was me. That was my first fangirl moment.
That's
Period.
cute. Wow.
But I did
No,
move
not
on
me at
from
all.
there to the actual to
Oh,
actual
I
relevance.
really thought that was it.
No,
I was
there
like,
is.
oh,
I was
No,
about to
I
say if we're stopping there, I could say the Wonder.
sorry. No, no, no. So while that was my real initiation to superheroes, that was the what. Yeah, while that was my first initiation, I also think the first thing that I started watching was Spider-Man series, and there used to be an animated series of Superman. So that was the first thing I watched because back then it was cable TV and we had limited channels. It was really limited, and we only had like a few channels in Dubai that aired animation. It was Cartoon Network, this, and you get CDs. So it was Superman, not by choice, but because that's the only thing I had. And then Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
that's a good one.
Love that.
Okay.
Period.
Good. Good thing you continued. Go ahead, T.
So for me, growing up, I really liked superheroes. I think it was more so because of my brother's influence. I would just naturally see like a lot of the superhero stuff that they were looking at, and I would just naturally kind of became interested. Um how looking at it like Marvel versus DC, how I kind of like think about it, if you asked me would I rather watch a DC versus Marvel movie, I would pick Marvel. If you asked me whether I'd want to see a Marvel versus DC television show, I would say DC. And my overall like nostalgia, what I feel connected with is DC. I grew up primarily on all DC characters IP except for Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. I don't think I even really knew any of the other like Marvel characters. I was aware of the Hulk because before Mark Ruffalo was like the Hulk, that one
hmm
Hulk movie, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad would watch it and I would walk by and see it. But I never really watched it, but I knew he existed. But I
Walk by.
swear, yeah, walk by. I never sat down, but I swear I didn't know who Thor was. I didn't know Iron Man. I definitely didn't know Captain America until like their MCU movies started coming out. Like I just truly was not aware of those superheroes at all. But I used to watch like all DC stuff growing up. Like I love the Batman animated series. There's like this old 1976 Wonder Woman series I used to watch. I grew up on Teen Titans, Justice League, The Flash, Arrow, Suicide Squad, Black Lightning, and I just watched Titans end of last year for the first time, which was amazing. So it's really just been DC plus Spider-Man for me. Um for Spider-Man, I wasn't just watching like the Tobey Maguire movies, which have a special place in my heart, but I was also like watching the television shows and then also playing the video games as well, which I'm not a video game person, but since my brother had like his little PlayStation 2 or 3, he would have like the Tobey Maguire video games and I would watch and then I would play those as well. So, yeah, I truly love DC. Like I think it's the nostalgia that I have for that makes me feel that way towards DC cuz like other Marvel movies like I've only seen um Tom Holland's Spider-Man's. Black Panther's the only one I felt the need to watch in the movie theater. I've seen all the Iron Mans and the first Thor. Besides that, I generally don't have an inkling or wish to watch any of the other things, let alone the television series. So, yeah,
Mm.
DC girly, I guess. And
I
the last thing
complete.
I'll say, I'm so sorry. I
I'm
had
sorry.
a Teen Titans Robin doll when I was
Mm,
little. It was like the same size as me. Um,
Oh,
but
dang.
yeah, it was
that's
kind of like a
creepy.
big one, and I was like a kid, but I loved it. I used to play like school with all my dolls, and Robin was my student like multiple times. So yeah, love DC.
Nice. I completely forgot about the Wonder Woman TV series. I loved watching that, but I was like maybe 11 or 12 when I started watching that series. So I didn't count that in. But yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that show was really nice. Rose?
Um, so I okay. Well, you said when you said Powerpuff Girls, and then you had said Teen Titans. I watched them. Like I had watched both of them, but I never really considered that like my introduction to superheroes. That was just a TV show. Um, and I never really thought of it past that. Like it was like Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob. Like it was just some TV show for kids. And then I think some point in middle school, I watched the first Captain America movie and I was like hooked from there. Like I watched every single Marvel movie that I could. I wasn't really, I started watching like DC movies, like Superman and all that, but I was never a fan of Superman and Batman. Like, obviously, Superman is like this huge cultural icon around the world, but especially in America. And so I knew who Superman was and I knew who Batman was, but I didn't like the idea of like Superman's only weakness is kryptonite. Be for real. Like that, there's no way. It just seems so unrealistic. And then with Batman being like uber rich, it just, I don't know. As a kid, I didn't really like that. So I definitely gravitated more towards Marvel. And then when I got older, I started watching more like DC
DC.
movies because I just started liking film and I also really like superhero movies. But that's it. I think I would probably say my favorite was Captain America at first because of like nostalgia reasons. That was the first superhero that I got into. But I think as time has gone on, I really like the X-Men movies. Everyone has some things to say about them. I know they're not the best always, they're not the most consistent, but I think they do a really good job telling it's like one of the few series that was created to talk about larger themes like identity and discrimination. I feel like they did a really good job talking about marginalized communities. So I think I just really gravitated towards X-Men, but then as the Avenger movies started coming out, specifically ugh, well, I guess it was an Avengers movie, Captain America Civil War and then Avengers Infinity War. I think around there, Marvel's stories to me started to be more complex, and so I got deeper into it. But before then, I was probably more into X-Men than anything. But it was still kind of like this interest I had in the background. Like if you knew me growing up, you probably didn't know I was into superheroes because it was just like some like the fifth hobby I had. It wasn't
Mm.
necessarily like this huge thing I was into. And I don't have any brothers. Like I have a cousin, he's a boy, but he was into anime more so than superheroes. So like I kind of just explored it on my own.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have someone who leans towards Marvel and the other one who leaned towards DC growing up.
All the way leaned, yes.
Okay. Just one thing I had to add. My answer is basically based on my early childhood. That is what I watched. I by no means you can say that there's no way you can say that I was into superheroes, but I wasn't against them. You get it?
Hmm.
Like I liked the storyline. If I like the storyline, I'll watch it. I think the first time it caught my attention was when they rebooted the X-Men series. That's when I started watching it more. Because I watched the first X-Men movie and I loved it. I watched the second and the third one and I didn't like it. Um,
They're inconsistent. Yeah.
but I like the rebooted version, the first class, all of that. I loved all of those. I
Hmm.
don't know why, but I just like it felt lighter. I think that's when Marvel started incorporating a lot more humor into it, or maybe I was understanding it better. But it felt lighthearted and then it went to serious. So I
Hmm.
like that.
I forgot also. I love DC TV shows. Like I loved Arrow, loved Flash, Supergirl. I can't say I loved Supergirl,
I never
but
watched it.
like I watched it. I didn't finish all three of those shows. Like Arrow, I was locked in, but I didn't realize it was a DC like he was a DC hero until like halfway through
Mm,
the first season. I was like, oh, because Arrow came out when I was still pretty young. I feel like I was still in middle school.
It
yeah.
was really popular for a bit.
Yeah, it was, but I really loved Arrow. I think it was great. He got soft, and I'm not trying to like tap into toxic masculinity. I'm really not, but like he got soft and it got annoying. Um, and then with the Flash, the storyline just got annoying,
It
and
did.
it was too lovey-dovey. Like, oh my God, love of my life, my daughter. Like, please, could you just go fight a villain? Please. Talk about the evil man who's stealing all the money from the wealth, and then talk about this discrimination going on halfway across the world that you're trying to help. Like, be more serious. I think with DC TV shows, they kind of got, because you have so many episodes and you have this like elongated time where you get to know the characters, it gets so sentimental. And it's like a little bit of sentiment is good. I'm here for it. But every episode, like, please stop. Please stop. But yeah, I was answering these questions and I was like, I probably should finish Arrow and Flash. I don't think I'll finish Supergirl. But I should finish at least those two. But yeah, Marvel leaning for sure.
Okay. I never really watched any of the TV shows, I think except Wonder Woman and Flash. I never really got into any of them. Flash got annoying after the first couple of seasons because they just kept, it's like they couldn't hire anybody new, so they just kept rotating the
Yeah,
same
that's true.
characters over and over again from
That's
one
also
planet to
true.
the other. And I'm like, okay. And the
Hmm.
storyline seemed they were following this template of sorts, I felt, and I didn't like that. I did not like the introduction of the daughter. I found that very annoying.
That's when I stopped watching. That girl was
Yeah,
so
I was
annoying.
like, no.
There was no way. She was Nora was her name?
Nora, yeah.
No, no,
Yeah, she was so annoying.
yeah.
Like, girl, go back in the future. No one asked you to come. Anyway, I will say the first few seasons of most of the DC shows though are pretty good. I would say they just get stuck around season 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think it's
Um,
time to cancel at that point. Cut the cord. Say bye bye.
no, literally. Okay, so then now that we have the foundation of superheroes, how do we feel that Marvel and DC has shaped societal views on heroism over the decades? Um, oh wait, no. Next, which universe has had a bigger influence on pop culture globally?
That's a really difficult question.
Hmm.
And right now, I would say Marvel. But if this were asked maybe 20, 30 years ago, I would say DC. It's because Superman was such a big thing. Batman was a really big thing in the 90s and in the 80s. What was his name? Christopher Reeves, was it? The initial Superman, super famous all across the world. They wouldn't understand a lick of English and they'd be watching him. flying across whatever, wherever he was flying as Superman. So, um, I'd say it had more of an impact globally. DC did initially, at least, but then Marvel movies became a little more entertaining and more appeal. They were more. I feel it was more appealable. Is that a word? Appealing.
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 Appetizing? Oh.
Are they eating Marvel?
I mean, appetizing works too.
It does, but yeah, appealing.
Appealing. I think it appeals to a wider range of the audience in the sense that kids would also really like it, and then teenagers would like it, and even people who are not into action or into superheroes would enjoy it because it had different elements incorporated in it. Like my mother enjoyed Marvel movies, and I was like, she hates superheroes. My dad hates superheroes, so I think now Marvel, back then DC, but DC is picking up again. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you could honestly, in my opinion, make a good argument for both universes. And I think when you look at like their histories and everything, I think DC was first, so it's like it kind of laid the foundation, and then Marvel was just like 5 years later. But I honestly think they take turns kind of like having higher relevance over the other. But then there's also like spikes. Like I agree, like the last maybe 10, 15 years, I would say Marvel, but DC has had some spikes. Like the Dark Knight trilogy, that was huge. Suicide Squad was a spike. Arrowverse, everyone was talking about it for a while. Um, but yeah, I just think, especially in the realm of movies, Marvel has just kind of the MCU is like so huge, and just for some reason DC, I only saw like Aquaman and Batman versus Spider Man. I never really
Forgot
watched.
about Aquaman.
Yeah, I never really watched any of those, and that was their best performing movie at the box office, Aquaman.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I'm
and
surprised. Okay.
yeah, that's their highest, and Marvel's highest was obviously Endgame, and it had like double, like more than double the box office like money that it raked in. So it's like DC tries, but I don't know. I just think Marvel just kind of has the formula down for movies,
Mm.
but yeah, even though I would say Marvel's like the more prominent one right now, you just can't ignore like the global relevance that DC IP has. Like it's everywhere, like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, like there's just so many things that have them entwined within pop culture. And in my opinion, I don't know if this is unpopular or not, but this is my opinion. Batman has some of the most iconic villains, and no one can
Yeah,
tell
I agree.
me differently. Joker, I could stop there, but I won't. Joker, the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Two Face, bro. Oh my god, this
Two-Face is so good.
he's
They're so
iconic.
complex. That's what I love about DC. They're
It's
complex
so
characters, which is
good,
why they make for terrible movies.
I
but
wouldn't agree, but okay.
I think I would argue they haven't done it right, but I think they could be great on a movie. But like the Riddler, Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow was the scariest
Mm.
single villain that I saw. I just watched the Batman animated series again at the end of last year after I finished Titans. And I watched all these villains again. And it's just like, you just can't beat it. And I think I don't know. Maybe it's a nostalgia. Maybe I'm like connected. I just feel like it's the greatest. Spider Man also has great villains, but yeah, I
Hmm.
just it's so iconic, and like it's the fact that you have characters that are even like the villains, where it's like they have their own spin-offs. Harley Quinn has a whole bunch of spin-offs. Joker has a whole bunch of spin-offs. Like Penguin just has a television series that's premiering
Mm.
right now. Like they have so much within them. Like, but yeah, both are great. Marvel's kind of topping right now, but DC.
I think DC
That's
will
fair.
last longer for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just that some of their storylines are very interesting. Their characters, even if they're negative, like even if you look at the villains, I think they're interesting. Like I hate the Joker, but I want the Joker.
Suicide Squad
Um,
Joker had me looking like
I'm
Jared Leto.
not
I
taking
was
part in
like,
this.
Oops.
go ahead, Rose. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
You know I'm right
um,
though. It's okay.
I'm not disagreeing. Um, so for me,
Sorry. I'm sorry.
you're good. That was really high pitched. For me, my answer, I think indisputably to me, DC has had the bigger influence on pop culture. I think DC was created, DC superheroes were created in like the 30s and 40s during wartime. And so, like,
Is it
hope
me
and
or is
strength.
it her? Is it
Just
me?
repeat what you said again, Rose. You kind of like cut.
She's stuck.
She's still
I'm
frozen.
joking.
Wow, that was good. Okay,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
okay, 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 okay. Okay.
Sorry. Um,
It's nice for a change.
basically, with DC being created in the 30s and 40s, um, they created this sense of hope and strength with Superman. And DC is, to be also clarified, DC is more than just superheroes. I think when we talk about DC, we mention superheroes, but they have a bunch of other comics and genres that they did really good or they did really well with and that they succeeded with. But we talk about superheroes the most. But I think indisputably it's DC because of the fact that from creation to now, they're still influencing society. I think with Marvel, the MCU is great, right? It's so amazing. We're like, oh my God. But it's literally because of the fact that Marvel or Disney has been able to tell stories in different ways. They've changed the way that we experience superhero stories. I think with DC, whether no matter how you put it in front of you, no matter how they tell you the story, even if we're like, oh, okay, that that Batman movie wasn't my favorite, whatever. Like the actual core of the superhero itself still reaches a global audience and doesn't change. I think with Marvel, the way that they've been able to adapt from comics to film is so unique and successful that it can, let me explain. It can give the illusion of like being having a higher influence on society. And I'm not knocking it. I already said I was a Marvel girl. Like Marvel is my number one between the two. But I think DC actually from creation to actual finished product has been able to influence society and pop culture globally. I think Marvel pushes the film industry. I think they're really good at making the film industry think about the next wave of storytelling, whether it's with CGI or actors directing, style, whatever it is, they push the film industry. But if we're purely talking from a superhero standpoint, when it comes to Marvel and DC, I'm giving it to DC. Because even when you ask Shreya of like, oh, what did you say? You said, I think DC will be like longer,
Mm,
like have a longer influence. And it's because DC is the foundation of superheroes. Marvel is good too. Marvel comics are also really good. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying when you compare the two and the influence that they've had and the complexities that they of the stories they tell, DC takes the cake and DC makes us think more than Marvel does. So
agreed.
I'm giving it to DC.
Agreed.
I don't know. I think it's both, but I think Marvel is just film. I think their film is hands down, I'm so sorry, DC, but hands down better than DC. Marvel storytelling when it comes to like movies, amazing. Even their TV shows have been so good recently compared to DC. So I feel like they're really good at that aspect of it. And maybe again, it's because Disney owns them and Disney's really good at storytelling more so than what is it, Warner Bros. With DC, I think.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. Yeah. So like I think comparative, it could also be the tools at their disposal. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I can see where I can see your point. I also agree with you to a large extent. Now, my thing is, I'm not sure how far this is colored by my experience or my individual experience, but what I notice is that DC characters, for how do I put this? You resonate with the characters and not with the movie.
Yes, exactly.
You do you
Exactly.
understand? Like I wouldn't remember. I resonated with Batman, Christian Bale's Batman. Oh, Christopher Nolan was it? I don't know, but you know the
I
initial
think it's
trilogy.
Bale. I think
It's
it's
Yeah.
Bale.
Bale.
No, no, the director.
Nolan.
Nolan? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Nolan's Batman series, I resonated with the characters there. So if I had to think of Batman, I'd be thinking about the character there. I'm not thinking of the movie in general. The third movie, I didn't really like it, though I love Tom Hardy in it. But the point is, you remember the characters more than the movie itself. Like if I think of MCU, I think when I think of Endgame, the only character that perhaps stood out to me was Thanos because he made sense in a really weird way.
No, that's fair.
But apart from Thanos, I didn't feel connected with the character. Like I won't say I love Captain America. Like I like his movies. Sure, I love the movies, but not the
Hmm.
actual character.
No,
Maybe
I agree.
that might just be because I didn't grow up on it. I was
Hmm.
probably in my late teens when the first movie came out, I think.
Hmm. It's yeah. I think most of what I know from DC is from the comics, and most of what I know from Marvel is from the movies. And I think maybe because of the way that I took in the information, like the medium in
Mm-hmm.
which I took it in, maybe that's why I feel like it's more complex. But also what you're talking about, like I loved Marvel and I always felt connected to the same characters due to sentiment because I grew up on them rather than for what they stood for. And I don't know, maybe that's gonna change as they're into this. I think they're in phase 5 now or 6, something like that. Maybe it'll change. But it
Mm-hmm.
just seems like now they're following the hype, and if you follow the hype, the money will come, but they're not necessarily slowing down for the quality of it all. So, I don't know. But the bar is pretty high for Marvel. Like they haven't really fallen yet.
One thing I think of when I think about Marvel and DC and how they set up their universes, it's very overwhelming when I look at Marvel things because
Yeah.
everything is so interconnected. I feel like if I were to watch certain things, I wouldn't understand totally because I don't have the background of, oh, this storyline's going on, or
Yeah.
oh, this is why this character's here so much. Like, I have to say, I really love Tom Holland's Spider Man. I really enjoy it. But my biggest complaint is I feel like he doesn't have a standalone movie. There's always a big Marvel character that's in it, whether it's Iron Man in Homecoming, Nick Fury and that white lady in Far From Home, or
Don't do Hill like that.
I didn't know her name. No disrespect to that lady. She was very powerful and strong, but I didn't know her name.
Who?
Agent Hill.
Agent
Oh,
Hill.
I just know her from. I hate saying this. I'm not proud of it, but I only know her as a girl from the woman from How I Met Your Mother.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, she is in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would
That's
say the
fair.
same. That's fair. Yeah, I never even watched that show, but yeah.
Me
And
either.
then,
No, I just know her face because she was always on TV.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then the last one was really great with like Andrew and Toby. Yeah, Toby coming back and everything. That was great, but it's like Doctor Strange was on there. It was very MCU
Yeah.
mixed up and heavy. So when I look at things that aren't like my go-tos, which are like Black Panther, Spider-Man, Iron Man, like it's a little, I feel over my head when I try to look at characters that I don't really know that well, because it's like, okay, how much of this is like them and how much do I need to know like MCU background?
Hmm.
For me, when I look at like DC, they have so many, they call it like else worlds, where it's like it's not necessarily a part of the DCEU, but it's still like DC intellectual property. Like neither the Joker movies are a part of the DCEU. The Penguin television series isn't, but it's like I feel like I can still watch like certain things, and it's like they stand alone. You get a story, and I
Hmm.
don't need all this extra background that I don't have, or that I would have to put out extra effort to watch and understand. So I feel like there's pros and cons to it, but I feel like DC stuff is just more attractive to me because they feel like I can watch it standalone, get just as clear of an understanding and enjoyment out of it as people who are like deep into it. Marvel's just overwhelming for me. And since I don't
That's more
really
than
have an
fair.
interest in watching certain Marvel things, it's like, I just won't start it. And then I find something DC and I'm like, I'll watch this.
Mm.
But yeah.
That's fair. That's more than fair. I think it also speaks to the fact of like DC does a really good job with quality more than quantity. Marvel has a lot of quantity. Marvel has so much. It's a lot. And I would say I know about like 70% of all of Marvel. When it comes to the film, I'm not even talking about the comics. I haven't even touched those. But yeah, it's a lot. Even if you have you guys seen the Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday, like TikTok or social media thing where basically the way they filmed it was what are those black chairs that actors and directors sit on? A director's chair?
Just a chair?
That's
I don't know.
Yeah, a chair.
no, it's like it's the wooden chair that has like the black thing on the
Yeah.
back. Yeah, and you
Mm-hmm.
can write
Mm-hmm.
your name. So basically they filmed it where they were all sitting at an angle and then it slowly kept pulling back and you can see the cast. They were introducing the cast of Avengers Doomsday. That was so long. The
There was an
cast is
Avengers Doomsday.
it's coming out. and
Oh,
they
I
just
did not
released
know
the
that.
cast.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's, I mean, not just, maybe like a month or so ago, but it's so long. It is so long. There's so many people, and I didn't even watch it. I just Googled like the cast, and people put together like the headshots and then the name and the character. It's like 4 pages long, and each row I want to say is like 7 people, and it goes 7 across, and maybe like 4 or 5 down, and then 4 pages of that. That's crazy for a movie, you know? Like you have to go and watch all the other movies beforehand, so that can also take away from the storytelling. Like you have to be invested in MCU, otherwise you don't get the story or the impact. I'll send it to y'all. It's so long. It was insane. Um, but because we're talking about quality and quantity, we should talk about the quality and the quantity of superheroes, like the actual characters themselves and the villains. So how do you feel that, yeah, this is fine. How do you feel that Marvel and DC have shaped societal views on heroism over the decades? The idea of being a superhero, having superpower.
I think it has evolved a little, but you know what? Why don't you guys go first? Let me collect my thoughts on this.
So I did a little bit of research on this one just because I don't naturally kind of already know like how it changed over the decades, but from my research, it kind of looked like DC heroes like kind of have like this foundation in like truth, justice, hope. Like they're like these symbols that always
Hmm.
kind of almost like mythic god like that kind of represent these like virtues and like not Spider-Man, Lord Superman, he's like a symbol of virtue and the ideal of selfless heroism, and like Batman is like this pursuit of like justice and like truth, and he has like this dark traumatic past and everything. um but it said that like Marvel characters, they're kind of like more flawed and a little bit more relatable, and they kind of have, I guess, more of like a growth through
Mm.
like a character arc. And I can't speak to that totally because I haven't seen half of these, but that's
Hmm.
what the website said. But I do think both do a great job of diverse diversity and like including different backgrounds and like stories and identities and how to like persevere through certain issues. Maybe y'all can answer more so for like Marvel, like about the
Mm.
relatability of it all. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a really cool take, and I'm curious like how it has kind of changed because I don't feel that um, all DC characters are kind of rooted in like the truth, justice, hope thing. But I definitely think as like the front runners being like the Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, I can see how that um, tracks.
Mm.
But truthfully, I don't actually. No, I do know other DC. Actually, Arrow's kind of like that. He's the very strong moral compass type. But yeah.
He says something. He says,
Oh,
"You
he
have
does.
failed this city," or something like that.
Yes, he
Yeah,
does.
something like that. Yeah.
You have failed this city.
Now he was so good the first few seasons.
Yeah.
I think if I'm understanding what the website said, what you shared, I don't disagree with it. I think that for me, when I was answering this question, I was thinking of it. I'm happy that you said like mystical gods, because I said in my notes, I was like, we give superheroes and superhumans these aspects of like godlike characteristics, but even that can be challenged because they're human characteristics at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Justice, truth, honesty, all that stuff. Those are human characteristics. But I think we kind of use them as a scapegoat. Um, kind of like trying to explain it properly. Like, if I were to say, like, oh, I wish, like, Superman is so righteous and morally correct, but he can be righteous and morally correct. He has all these superpowers and he can fight the villains and fight the system and all this stuff. What can I do? You know, I feel like it can kind of give that, like, we want to see ourselves in these superhumans or superheroes, but then we would have to be superhuman to be them, even though we can do the same things as our own, just in different ways. Like if you
Mm.
want to fight the system, go fight the system. There's different ways that you can do it on a human level. So sometimes I feel like we use them as scapegoats and we put them on these pedestals of like, oh, this is what this is what it means to fight justice. This is what it means to have a strong moral compass. Both DC and Marvel, like Captain America always does the right thing.
Yeah.
There's some times where he did the right thing, but I'm like, if it was a human, let's be for real. Like, would we have done the right thing, morally speaking? And so I think we kind of idolize them and we see them as this idolized version of ourselves. Well, I wish I was like Captain America and I
Mm.
was morally great, even though we're flawed. And I think that the website saying that Marvel characters are more um relatable, it said, right?
Mhm.
I think I think they're relatable through the acting. Like I wouldn't say the
Mm.
characters themselves are relatable. Like if you gave me Captain America as the comic and read it, I wouldn't be like I relate so much to Captain America. I wouldn't say the same thing about Iron Man or the Hulk or anything. But when you have really great actors like Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo and Chris Evans, Chris Jamal Evans, you honestly, it's relatable. It is relatable. Like I don't know. I think it's the acting. They're really good at what they do. They make you feel like you're a part of it, and that should be applauded. But I wouldn't say it's because of their characters
Mm.
themselves. Like, could their characters stand alone and be that relatable as well?
Mm.
I don't know if I completely agree with that. I do see your point though, that they are phenomenal actors. Um, but okay. I think initially heroes were those who were in some way or form indestructible,
Hmm.
super strong. Nothing can break them except for kryptonite. And they're perfect in every way. The ideal of some sort. They're not normal. They're not the usual common man or woman, which made it seem like there was something extraordinary about them. And I think it came with a sense of nobility. I don't mean it in the aristocratic sense, like being noble with the way you look at things. Even when you look at someone who is, um, let's say, your enemy, you'd have a little more. You always do the right thing. You guys mentioned it, justice, morality, things like that. But I also feel that both DC and Marvel have diversified in that way because honestly, if you had to meet Batman or Bruce Wayne in real life, he'd be a pain in the ass because he's a brooding,
Hmm.
censor it, but he was a brooding asshole most of the time.
That's fair.
He wasn't a pleasant person. He was so caught up in his own cycle of misery, personal misery, that it made him become who he was. So there were gray shades added to it. Now, if you look at Marvel, I think Iron Man and maybe even Ant-Man show characters who are flawed,
Mm.
right? Iron Man is flawed. He, what was Robert Downey Jr.'s? Tony Stark. So full of himself, so unattractive, but yet attractive. Like, think of a normal person with that level of narcissism or the need for control. That's unattractive, but it's a flawed character. Like the way he reacted to, what was his name, Bucky,
Yeah, Bucky,
the
Winter
Winter
Soldier.
Soldier.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the way he reacted to very human, very relatable. So I think what has happened is over time it's become something about overcoming your weaknesses or moving past those weaknesses and not the initial of having no weaknesses, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I agree with that. I always think one of the most human Marvel movies is Iron Man 3 when he's dealing with the PTSD of the first Avengers movie. I think that does a really good job looking into like what is it? Not consequences. I guess consequences of being a quote unquote superhero and the way that you have to like consistently decide that this is what the path that you want to take and you want to protect people. But no, I agree. I think the way that Marvel has been able to diversify the story of their superheroes and make them more complex is very similar to the villains of DC. So
Mm.
I kind of like when I think of heroes in hate me if you want. I don't like Wonder Woman. Like she's annoying. And maybe it's because my introduction to Wonder Woman was the movie with Gal Gadot or whatever.
Mm.
Like that was trash. Sorry, hate me if you want it. Did not like that movie. Did not like Wonder Woman. I like her aspect of using like I read some article a while back that she uses nonviolent conflict resolution skills, like with her lasso and stuff like that. So I think that's an interesting take. And I also, you can't forget the basically all that she did for feminism, the creation of her as a comic as a whole, the first woman superhero that wasn't like just a sidekick or a lover or whatever. So like she's done a lot, but I think Wonder Woman as a whole, Batman, Superman, they do lack some of those fundamental flaws that a lot of
Mm.
Marvel characters have. So I can agree with that. Even Flash, he's annoying too. Um,
He's hilarious. I love the
which
Flash. Like
really,
Justice League,
yeah.
Justice League era, like the animated Justice League. He's hilarious.
Uh,
I haven't watched
yeah.
them.
I know the TV show Flash. I know Justice League, like the live action Justice League
I never
Flash.
saw that. I didn't. The
It's
actor
aight.
is problematic, so I didn't. I was like, ooh.
Oh, very. But he was actually really good as the Flash.
Mm.
The what is it? The Snyder cut of Justice League. I actually really like that one. That was a really
Okay.
good DC movie.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I
that
think I
was really
watched the
good.
movie before all the news came out.
Me too. I didn't know nothing
Not the
about that
Flash
one.
movie, but the Justice League one.
League one.
Yeah.
Um, real quick, I wanted to bring in a piece of history in this topic because I feel like it's really important the history in which superheroes did blow up. So obviously we knew they were created like around wartime, but basically I feel like I have brought this up, maybe or maybe not. But this thing called the Comics Code Authority was created around the like 50s. Because so superhero comics, I think this part I'm not sure on this specific statement, but I don't think they were as big as other genres of comics. They were kind of just a genre, but they weren't like huge. Um, and so basically what happened was this psychologist, he, the government was kind of concerned about comics, okay? There was a lot of horror and gore and sexual stuff when it came to comics. Basically, the psychiatrist, he used to like be a counselor, like think of a therapist for boys, young boys. And he went up to the Senate and was like, the solution to the moral deviation of teenagers and adolescents is comics. Because of comics, there is a moral issue with our kids, and we need to get rid of them in order to protect and save our kids and keep them pure, whatever. He
So,
had his research was not correct. Like it's kind of like the causation is not correlation thing or correlation is not causation, whichever way it goes. Um, but because of the comics world, they were so scared of the government shutting them down, they basically created their own authority, the Comics Code Authority. And so I have a list of things that they had banned. Basically, the authority came up with a list of guidelines that all comics had to find or follow, and then you submit it to the authority. And if you passed, they would give you like this little sticker that you would put on your comics on the seal, and then stores would sell them. And if your comic didn't have that little sticker from the Comic Code Authority or the CCA, then stores most likely weren't going to sell them. So they had a lot of underground comic shops and stores where you can find like the normal comics that you were used to. And so it couldn't have no excessive violence or gore, no portrayals of authority figures like police judges in a negative light, no sexual content or suggestive poses, no use of the words like horror or terror in titles. The good always had to triumph over evil. Criminals could never be shown in a sympathetic way. So like these were some of the strict rules that they had to follow due to the government push on them. And because of that, if you think about it, hero and the superhero genre had they basically had an open field to write what they wanted because in superhero stuff, superheroes usually win over supervillains. Good triumphs evil already. So they already had this narrative and storytelling that was easy for them to pass during the code. So for 20 years, when all these other comics and all these other genres couldn't really get past it and they were struggling to like rewrite their stories in a way that was true to themselves but also followed the CCA, you had the superhero genre that could just get by.
mm.
And so I think that that speaks a lot to our version of heroism and the way that we perceive heroes because it was a systemic thing that pushed it. It was systemically speaking in the United States, the government was like, no, like we want morally good people. We want pure people. And then the CCA is created and they make it a rule that good always has to triumph evil and nothing excessive, no horror, no terror. You can't say police and judges are bad, all this stuff. And so then superheroes are automatically seen as these pure and morally correct people. So I think that also like that foundation of or not the foundation of how superheroes were created, but the environment in which it boomed is really important in thinking about like our perception of heroism. Because if it wasn't for the CCA, would we still think the same? If there wasn't all these restrictions of it. And I think Marvel stopped listening to the CCA in like the early 2000s, somewhere around there. They're like, I don't care. And then DC later on. I know Marvel was first, and then like maybe a decade later, DC was like, forget that. They didn't care anymore about the CCA. But yeah, that's kind of like the foundation of comics in the 1950s and the influence that had. So
That's
here's the American
interesting.
government once again telling us what to believe and what's morally good and correct just to save our morality and pure souls.
That's interesting. That reminds me of when you said like the good has to triumph evil piece.
Hmm.
That reminds me of like there's this 1956 movie called The Bad Seed. And I remember I was watching it cuz my dad likes to call me the bad seed even though I'm literally an angel. So I remember at the end of the movie she's like this psychotic little girl who she's killed a bunch of people. But I remember at the end it's like she goes to get something out of a river and then she's just struck by lightning and she dies and that's the end. And my dad was like, yeah, they can't end it with her winning. Like the good had to win, evil couldn't survive.
Either
And so
way.
that, yeah, that made me think about that. And I guess that's kind of in the same timeline. So maybe that it kind of extended to films as well, certain films
Hmm.
as well.
That's
It
Um,
definitely
interesting.
could have, like, because that's also in the 1950s with the CCA, and then like propaganda was big, and the American dream and that narrative. Like, I just feel like it wasn't until the last like 20 years or so, maybe 30 years, where we really started questioning narratives. Beforehand, I really think we followed narratives, at least in America, we followed narratives that were told to us because we weren't given a reason not to listen to them. Um, well, I feel like black people were pretty early on like, oh, this is us. But other than that, like we weren't really given a reason not to listen to them. And then when we get into the 80s and the 90s and all this is being brought to light, we start to question the narratives and we start having the complexities of these stories and the complexities of these characters as well.
That's interesting because I don't know much about American society in the 50s or the 60s or at any point for that matter. But I always thought that the questioning phase or the phase where you start critiquing or rebelling or basically standing against something that you don't believe in started in the 60s. That's what I thought, at least against
Mm,
government action. Or the 70s. It started in the 60s and
okay.
then it grew in the 70s because a lot of cultural movements took place then, I guess. I don't know. I might be wrong. That's what I thought. It's
I
interesting
think
to
with
hear.
I think the 60s was basically like the civil rights era, not just for black people, but like women, the LGBTQ community, when you start talking about like the impacts of like foster care and adoption and our perceptions of that, and then politicians when we think of that. And anyway, all that. I think the 60s was like it was a magnifying glass was put to America in the 60s. It was already there beforehand, but I think the 60s, a lot of pivotal things happened. And so you can pinpoint like, okay, in 1961 this happened, in 1963 this, 1967 this. And so I would agree with you, like in the 60s, it was a lot of pivotal moments, but I think it was because we got a magnifying glass to be like, okay, let's look at ourselves. And so the
Mm,
changes happened. But it was
okay.
happening beforehand for sure.
Yeah. No, I think it was more subversive then. And here it's more open that you are standing up against authority and saying that, hey, we need this. This is not right. I think there was more of the definition of a law-abiding citizen perhaps started to shift, or morality started to shift then. What is that? When was the Vietnam War? When were the protests against the Vietnam War?
70s.
It was after like the
70s?
70s. Yeah.
70s. No, because I thought that was like a major thing as well because
Hmm.
you find young people standing up against the government in large numbers. So that was interesting. Okay. But that's really interesting about the Association, was it?
Comic Code Authority.
Comic Code Authority. Wow, okay. I did not know that existed.
It would be cool
Yeah.
to like take a closer look at like even if it was more just comics to see how they were directly impacted by like different things happening by decade. I don't
Ooh,
really look
Hmm.
at comments like that, so I don't know, but that would be really interesting. Like,
that sounds like fun.
yeah, like I know there's a Black Panther issue where he fights the Ku Klux Klan. A little scary. I don't like looking at things with the KKK. It's scary, but I would be interested to see how the story plays out. You know what I mean? And when
Hmm.
it actually came out. But that's really interesting.
That is
That
interesting.
leads me to our last question. What does the future look like for both universes in terms of movies, comics, and other media? And then you can kind of tie that in with like the mature themes, like who does mature themes better? I have my answer. So when I'm thinking about this and thinking about like the mature themes that the two universes handle, I think DC tends to be, they tend to dive deep into intrapersonal themes. So they're really good at like the complexity of an individual and the way that that plays out in society. And I think Marvel does a really good job diving deep into the interpersonal and the systemic aspects of mature themes. Like the idea of like in Civil War, where it's like the government wants control over the Avengers and them having an internal civil war as to like, yes, the government can, and then Captain America's side where he's like, no, like that's just gonna be bad, that's gonna end poorly. That's a really large topic, like systemic issue that we face. Also with Thanos, and he's like, I mean, he's evil. He's crazy. He is a psychopath, I know. But he kind of has some truth to what he's saying of like, we're overpopulated. People, there's famine, people are struggling. Like, I just want people to thrive. Yes, he's a villain, but that's also a really big question that we need to tackle systemically and interpersonally, internationally. Like, how are we going to handle it with overpopulation? And so I think Marvel does a really good job bringing up those topics, and I think DC does. We've talked about it throughout, so I won't dive into it. But they do a really good job talking about characters with like trauma, loss, identity, morality. When it comes to the future, I think that I bring this up because T, you said something about like you would be interested to dive into like comics or anything about how they were perceived in their time, like with Black Panther and the KKK. For my answer for this, I was like, I think we're finally at a point where Marvel and DC need to start creating more. And if they're able to adapt their framework of superheroes, their foundation of superheroes to current day issues and crises that we're facing, they'll be so successful. Like before, we're talking about justice or injustice. We're talking about morality, loss, trauma. We're talking about the government. Those were all issues we had. Again, the creation that they were superheroes had with like 30s, 40s, 50s. Makes sense. But now we're dealing with climate change, and we're dealing with political division, and dealing with the digital age with like digital identity. Like there's all these new problems that we have. So if they're able to take those problems and adapt them using their framework into these new superheroes, they're able to reach a whole new audience in relatability, and they're able to empower a whole new audience the way that they used to in the 30s, 40s, 50s with the comics. So they can do it. I just feel like their fate lies in their ability to adapt to the current realities that we're in.
Mm.
I agree with everything you said, and especially I do. I agree with everything you said. Touching quickly on like the how they handle mature themes and everything. I agree with I think earlier how I mentioned how DC has some projects that aren't a part of like the DCEU universe.
Hmm.
Um I think when you have things that don't necessarily have to be tied to like your main storyline, you can explore and go into deeper things. So I think that's why you see um
Hmm.
exploration into like darker psyches of certain characters unleash themselves in like the Joker movies, or even looking at Dick Grayson's character in Titans, like you kind of like get into his head and his trauma and everything. I think it's nice that they have the outlet to do that by not tying everything so much to their universe. I'm sure Marvel does that as well. I'm sure they do it great, but I really appreciate the way DC does it. In terms of the future, um, DC's DCEU ended, and so they're redoing their cinematic universe, and it'll be the
Hmm.
DCU. So I'm really excited to see where they're going to take that. I know the new Spider-Man, not I keep saying Spider-Man. The new Superman movie is coming out in June or July. So I think I might actually try to follow the storyline this time because I think they're really trying to bring up kind of their appeal within like the box office movie space. So
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to see what they're going to do. I've already said I really love a lot of their television series. I hope they continue to make great television. And I have a request. This is for the DC writers. I know y'all love Bat Fam. I know y'all love putting Dick Grayson with Barbara. Put him back with Coriander. Like, please. Robin. Oh, well, he's not Robin anymore. Nightwing and Starfire. Oh my God. After my Teen Titans heart. Please put them back together. They looked beautiful together in Titans. Just give them something else. Please. I get it. Intellectual property. Starfire is Teen Titans. Bat Fam is all together. I get it. Just work it out,
Mm.
please. That's all I ask. But yeah, I'm
No idea what you're
excited.
talking about.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, I'm excited, and Marvel, they're still going, they're still kicking.
Mm.
Maybe, yeah, I've heard mixed things about, even from y'all, like about the newer phases and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hope DC is kind of going into a little bit of a new Renaissance era with their new DCU. So
I
Yeah.
have faith in DC. I honestly think they just had a late start to the film industry
mm,
because like Marvel has Disney to back it up.
yeah,
Come on, it's Disney. Like they're so powerful and they're so great at telling stories. So Warner Brothers is good too, but I think they're just getting there.
yeah,
Um, if I'm being completely honest, I think DC started first, but Marvel just exploded. It grew at such a fast rate, DC couldn't keep up with that. They connected different characters together, they brought in that Avengers plotline. It was perfect timing, it was planned perfectly. That's something that I find missing right now with Marvel. It does not seem as coherent, and I also feel that there's a sense of fatigue that's setting in
mm,
when it comes to. I feel like it's very formulaic, the entire thing. It also might be that I'm aging, so I don't have the patience for it anymore. That just might be it. Or I've seen too much of it. Um, um, it might be something about the way they're going about it. I just feel like there's too much and it's not as good as it used to be. Um, I can predict what's going to happen, which is something that I don't like when I'm watching superhero movies. So that sense of fatigue. I think with DC, also I agree with everything that you both said, at least the parts that I understood. I agree with everything that I understood. Um, there was a bit that you said about what was that called? Intrapersonal and interpersonal,
Hmm.
was it? Where the intrapersonal is more highlighted in DC. Is that right?
Yeah.
I feel the intrapersonal becomes like subtext in Marvel movies, and I find that very interesting because, like you said, Tony Stark had PTSD, which is why he reacted the way he did, or it influenced the way his decisions and the way he went about doing whatever it is that he did. I think in DC they really explore that complexity, so it becomes that character's movie rather than rather than the situation being the
The main
um
part.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the situation becomes the main part in Marvel.
Hmm.
I think both of them do that. That's their specialty, and they do that well. So yeah, what does it look like in the future? DC is already doing things to revamp it. So I guess the idea would be to make both their heroes and their villains more attractive, not physically, but attractive to the audience. Um,
Hmm.
and with Marvel, I think they need to slow down and take a look at what's happening and then decide what they have to do. Because I don't like what Marvel's doing right now.
Yeah, it's I'm not gonna say I don't like it. I think I stepped away from it
Yeah,
because it was so much. I was just like I can't do this right now.
it's like I've seen. It's like I'm seeing Marvel every day. I think there was after Endgame. I think there was a point where everything on we had Hotstar. I think it's Disney here. Um, Hotstar plus. Hulu here or anyway. Everything. Every month there was something new from Marvel, and I was like, "What's going on? Slow down."
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
they really took off
I
after
was like,
Endgame.
why? Pace it out.
Oof. No,
Hmm.
that's good. This is
Hmm.
a good conversation. And to wrap it up, okay, Shrey, I know you said you wanted to list the worst villains. I honestly can't do that because I don't know DC villains. Like I only know the popular ones, and even then I know
Out of
them
whatever
quote
you've
unquote by name.
seen, I haven't even seen the
I
TV
can't.
series. Okay, I'll tell you then. Okay, I love Remus Lupin. I love Remus Lupin. I did not like him as the villain in Wonder Woman. It was a miscast.
You know, you said Remus Lupin. I was like from Harry Potter.
Me
I don't know
too.
his real name. I don't know his real name. I'm ashamed to admit I don't know his real name. I'm so sorry. But the actor, wonderful actor, love him. Just not as that villain. He didn't give me that menacing vibe at all. And he had this weird mustache going there. I was like, mm-mm.
I
Wait, so
believe you because
it's
I don't remember.
the actor who played Remus Lupin played a
Yes.
villain. Oh,
He
okay,
was the main villain in the first Wonder Woman movie.
interesting.
Her brother or her
I
uncle or something. So bad.
I believe you because I don't remember those Wonder Woman movies. I've seen both. I don't remember nothing. Nothing. It's fair. Hmm. I'm gonna say my favorite villain from each because I feel more confident in that one. So for DC, that's easier for me. I actually really like Poison Ivy. I like her. I rock with her. I think she is complex, but not to the level of like the Joker. Like the Joker's a lot, right? And he's a really good villain, and the different spin-offs they've had have been great. But I think Poison Ivy is one that I've always remembered as a good villain. Like I know she's still bad, but I feel like she has a lot of potential and layers to her that we can slowly start to discover.
Have you
Marvel,
seen? I'm so sorry. Have you seen that
you're good.
Batman and Robin movie where Poison Ivy's one of the villains with Mr. Freeze? It's
If
maybe
I did, I don't
2000s.
remember.
Okay, it's good. You should watch it because she's. It's not often that you see a live action Poison Ivy, so it's pretty
Ivy,
good.
but
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I think
Never seen
I
it.
think when it comes to DC movies, I've seen them and I forget them. Genuinely. I guess with Marvel, I just put a lot of energy into it because it is so interconnected. And with DC, I knew I just couldn't do that with two different universes. But I'll watch it because I really do like Poison Ivy from what I remember. And then as for Marvel, I'm gonna stand by it. Okay, wait. I have two different answers. My favorite villain is Loki because he is probably the most complex villain they have. And so I liked that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, like his insecurities and his abandonment issues and all this stuff. Like I love the complexity of it and I love the way that his story has gone thus far. I don't know what they're going to do in the future, but so far it's been great. The best villain though, like storyline wise in Marvel, is Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron is so good. And it does such a I think the writing was great. I don't know who wrote that movie, but they did a great job. And I think it does a good job touching on interpersonal, intrapersonal, and systemic issues all in one movie. Like Ultron is such a good villain. I want him to come back. And I know they destroyed him and like he can't come back, but well Tony's dead. But I'm sure the Hulk or Bruce Banner could come back and like figure out a way to bring Ultron back on accident. But he was such a good villain. Like my favorite villain, hands down. No one tops him.
I have a question. Isn't Loki dead?
Um, well, you haven't seen it, so I'm assuming you just don't
I
know.
know I
So I have
skipped
no
through the
reason.
first season. I've seen the first season. The thing is, I started watching them with my cousins and I fell asleep.
He is not dead. He has a new god title. I can't remember exactly what it is. But he is, I mean, I don't know if he's no longer the god of mischief, but he's now like a god of stories or god of time or something. Like
Ah,
he's now
okay, okay,
integral into it.
okay.
So
Okay.
he's not necessarily, he's in a different universe. Well, he's in the MCU universe, but within the MCU universe, he's in a different world.
Okay. Okay. Got it. T, do you have any favorites or dislike?
I'll start off with Marvel because I think DC's a little bit harder for me. I really like. Okay, I kind of have two. I really like Doc Ock. I feel like from my childhood, that
Really?
was the
Sorry.
yes, like he was like the most iconic Spider-Man villain from my childhood that I remember. But also, I mean, Green Goblin and Venom were also very iconic, but I always
Hmm.
remember Doc Ock. Nowadays, I really like Killmonger because I feel like
Mm.
he's one of those villains where it's like he was spitting facts, like how you said earlier, like they're like complex and everything.
Hmm.
Killmonger had um a good argument, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like technically correct and everything. So it's like you could really feel for him, and I feel like it really went around along with like the African proverb, the child who isn't embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. I just felt like that was like Killmonger to like a
Yeah,
T,
that's
and
true.
I just loved that. Obviously I don't know a lot, so I can't name other ones, but I'm sure there's a lot of great ones as well.
I will say Killmonger is probably like top five best Marvel
Who
villains.
played Killmonger?
Michael B. Jordan.
I
Sorry.
know the character now. Okay. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Okay. I was just making sure
That's
I
the
knew the
only
right
way.
person. Okay.
But yeah, no, I loved Killmonger. Moving to DC, I think I don't think this is my favorite, but one that I like a lot, Scarecrow from Batman. Especially looking at him in the Batman animated series, there's just something about someone who plays on your fear. Like it's so terrifying. Like that makes him all the more terrifying. The fact that he knows
Hmm.
how to bring out your worst fears, and every single time it would happen, Batman would be stunned. Like it took a battle or two for Batman to get it together. Even Robin kind of got hit with it sometimes, and it's like they had to relearn how to like be heroes and be like okay with confronting the deepest darkest parts of themselves that they bury down. So I just he always was such a formidable enemy in my opinion. I love Scarecrow, but yeah, there's a bunch other in DC that I just can't think right now, but I shouted out pretty much all the other Batman villains except I feel like I didn't give Scarecrow the pedestal that he deserves, but yes.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
not gonna lie, this conversation makes me want to go watch all the DC movies, and TV shows. Because I really like, well, I'm not watching Wonder Woman again, but I really
Watch the end. Watch the last 10 minutes. Please do. And then agree with me that
pass.
it was a miscast. Please.
Pass. I already
Mm.
agree. I already agree it's a miscast. Everything about that movie I did not like. And I mean, y'all can decide. We can vote to keep this or not. I obviously don't care. Gal Gadot, not my favorite person. I don't think she has a range when it comes to her acting. I think she has the same like five faces that she uses and five voices that she uses. And so I think it's really hard to see her outside of stuff. And I was introduced to her in Fast and Furious. I love Giselle or Giselle. Giselle? Yeah,
Yes,
right?
Han's
Can't she be?
girlfriend?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize
See?
that. Oh my god, I was about to
I
say I've
love
never
her.
seen her in anything, but I have. Wow.
Giselle, I swear that's not Gal Gadot. I swear that's not her. Like, I love her in that movie, and that's it. Every other thing I've seen her in, there's just not a range of acting. So I think they did Wonder Woman poorly.
Mm.
And Wonder Woman, like, changed the world when it came to feminism and stories. So they should have done it a better job, or done a better job at that. Anyway, I will rewatch a lot of the DC stuff. I'll watch some of the shows as well. Not Arrow and that, but like the animated ones for children and see because they're really good. But that's it. We're done.
Yay.
Okay, that was fun. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
watch Captain America.
Captain America Winter Soldier is so good. And Age of Ultron is so good. The Avengers. Watch them.
Maybe. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Mosaic Podcast.
Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay updated on new posts and episodes. Also, tune in to our blog where T. Marie posts every Monday, Roseberry every Wednesday, and I, Shreya, every Thursday.
We're grateful you're here, and we look forward to embracing the intersections of identity together in the episodes to come. Until next time,
Stay curious.
Stay true.
and stay unapologetically you. Bye.